Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 146 of The Best Games Period. I'm your host, Jack Gardner, and with me this week is the majestic Naomi Lugo.
Hello, everyone.
And the elusive Kyle Gaddo.
Am I an illusion? Or like elusive with
Elusive
an E?
is in like
Elusive with
like-
an E.
Oh, okay.
good at slipping away undetected.
But it's because we're greedy and we just always want you, Kyle, so...
Yeah.
You know, it's
Gotta have
relative. We just want you so much that you're elusive to us.
This is loaded with emotional burden. I think I have to go.
Kyle, no, don't go. No, Kyle.
Gotta have my Kyle. So yeah, this is Kyle Gaddo, everybody. Hello.
Hello. That's me.
Kyle, who are you? What do you do? You are one of those people who seems to know literally everybody somehow.
Yeah. I am a known entity of the universe. So I am a something within the games industry. I'm currently in between jobs. It's been a good time. It has not been a good time. But you may have seen me on The Escapist, where I was the community manager for a spell. And I am also accidentally famous online. I have memed once or twice. Yeah.
You're kind of a big deal in the world of posting.
Yeah. Why? I don't know. I don't know why.
I don't know. Posts an incredibly funny tweet in like 5 minutes after this is done recording that will be retweeted 5,000 times.
Why anything? I don't know. I'm kind of like I like to describe myself as gaming's cryptid.
You know what? That's fairly accurate.
Yeah, you know,
I
quite like that description, and like I came up with it on a whim, and I'm just like, you know what, like, you know, I could be like gaming's Mothman, just like, you know, like less fuckable than Mothman, but you know, probably like top 3. I'm okay with that.
I mean, look, no one's gonna be as fuckable as Mothman.
Who could even dare?
Like that sexy probably abdomen it has.
Yeah, like you know, Mothman has an 8-pack.
It's a little unnerving, but you get used to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're the kind of person who, like, literally probably for about a year before I actually met you, I remember like hearing people talk about you. I'm like, who is Kyle Gaddo? Like, who is this person that everyone keeps talking about and everyone seems to know, but I have literally never seen? And so, you know what? As a gaming cryptid, yes, you are. I was about to say you're a real life Slender Man, but Slender Man is a terrible cryptid.
Terrible. Yeah, no, it's just Slender Man has too many like bad associations. I have no affiliation with Slender Man. We've met once. I did not like his energy. We do not speak.
Met him once. He just slowly pushed me on a swing with no emotional fervor behind his pushes.
He didn't even ask. I was like, I can do this myself, son.
Well, you know what? I've asked you a couple times to come out of this podcast, but again, you're elusive and a cryptid, and we finally nailed you down for this one, and you decided that you wanted to talk about Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yes, and I'm like, I don't know if I like video games, so it's hard for me to choose one that I like, but I like this one. It's good.
You don't know if you like video games, but you...
That's a really great lead-in. Now tell us why you love this video game.
Yeah, like what's the nomination?
Oh, we're just getting right into it, huh?
Yeah.
I mean,
what
okay.
makes this game special?
Do you want to talk
what
about
makes
how
other games not special?
I mean, we could talk about like the virus that's rampaging through Seattle and LA and canceling all of the video game shows. Or we could talk about this fun game from several years ago before there was a virus.
God, yeah, it has been a few years since this came out. What is it, like 2017?
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is
it doesn't feel that long ago, but...
dumb. Time is dumb.
Well, it's not that long ago. Like, 3 years is like nothing. Anyway, yeah, Horizon Zero Dawn, good.
The end.
The
Credits
end.
roll. Thank you to our patrons.
Roll credits. No, like what is there to say about Horizon Zero Dawn? I only like games that make me cry. Like,
you know, most of us only like things that cause us some kind of emotional pain or catharsis.
I wouldn't even say it's pain, but yeah, it is cathartic in a way. And like Horizon Zero Dawn is one of very few games that just like hit me in the right places, and that list includes Danganronpa 1 and 2 and Journey and Final Fantasy 14.
You should come back sometime and talk about Danganronpa with me. Because
Yes.
that game slaps, and I don't think enough
Yes.
people have played it.
No, that's because visual novels are just underrepresented. Like there are so many of them, but it's like I guess it's hard to really enjoy visual novels in a way that there's not a lot of mass appeal for visual novel. Personally, I love them. I think it's great to have something relaxing that's like low pressure, and it's just like, okay, well, I'm not gonna. There's no split-second decision making with VNs, which is pretty nice, all things considered.
Mm-hmm.
Like typically, there's only one route to take and whatever. But yeah, I love Danganronpa. I never finished V3 though, but I did do 1 and 2, and then like 1.5, and then I watched the anime, and I'm like, I'm good.
You got your full immersion of it. Okay.
Yeah. Well, V3 is a spin-off of the main series, so it doesn't like follow that canon. So I wasn't like invested because like 1 and 2 have a set a character set that was intriguing and like all tied in together as far as the story was concerned.
This is now a Danganronpa podcast.
That is true. Oop, poo, poo. But yeah, like going back to
Did you just go foo 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 foo?
Oop, boop, boop, boop. I don't know. I can't do a Monokuma voice.
Can anyone really do a Monokuma voice?
I think the voice actor from Monokuma can.
I refuse to believe that that's done by an actual person.
That's fair.
Like
It's
they actually have a
like
robot
Hatsune
there.
Miku. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's Hatsune Miku, so they have a.
It's a Vocaloid.
So we've uncovered a secret here. And it's Monokuma's voice actor is
A
Hatsune
Vocaloid.
Miku. What?
Or
Like her range is incredible. Just like she made Minecraft, she wrote Harry Potter. Just
Who is this Miku?
yeah, Hatsune Miku, just a wonder of existence. Wouldn't surprise me if she had a hand in Horizon Zero Dawn.
So Horizon Zero Dawn, it's 2017 action adventure RPG, kind of one of those all around stirring pots of a video game.
No.
Made by Guerrilla Games.
Before we like delve deep into that, spoilers, obviously, yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
spoilers. So if you haven't played Horizon Zero Dawn, you may want to stop watching or listening right now, and like go buy it. It's like $20 and just start playing it and just like really get into it because I know you will because it's very good.
And honestly,
So-
$20 for that game is such a steal.
It is
It
more
is.
than a steal. Plus, it comes with like the DLC and it's just.
So Kyle, I have a confession. I never finished this game.
Okay, well, how far did you get?
Not very far at all.
That's
Like,
terrible.
I'm a
Killing
monster.
me.
Yeah, like an hour in.
Oh my god.
I know.
That is no time at all. It's a big
think-
game.
Oh gosh, what came out at the same time? Oh no. Okay, so here's a little bit of a story, right? I
Right.
don't have my PS4 anymore.
Okay.
We only had the PS4 for like a glorious 4 months, maybe. And at that time, we got it because of God of War, and then I think we just happened to get Horizon Zero Dawn as well.
Yeah.
So God of War won out, and then the PS4 got sold. So
yeah, all right, yeah, I remember it was a competition, and people were like, "Oh, God of War is like
Yeah,
open world,"
and
it's just like, "Oh, it's a big deal," and I'm just like, God of War doesn't compare to this thing. It's like,
all right,
why are you playing God of War and Horizon?
that's a pretty
is right
steep
there.
bar because
And,
God of War was amazing.
I mean,
for me.
it's amazing, but also how many other games are there out there about like a gruff dad and son on a road trip?
It's completely unique and new.
As opposed to a
But he's
woman
buff.
taking on a world of robot dinosaurs.
True. And I'm
Saying.
also gonna say that I didn't not play this game because I didn't want to. It was just PS4 was gone.
Circumstance, I understand.
Yeah, exactly. It happens.
but
consoles come and go, unfortunately.
But the major competitor at the time for Horizon was Breath of the Wild, another open world game.
That would definitely kill it for me too.
Yeah. So having played Breath of the Wild for like 15 hours and then playing Horizon Zero Dawn all the way through, I'm just like, why would anyone like Breath of the Wild when Horizon Zero Dawn? Yeah.
These are some heavy hitters you're putting up against this game.
Know.
Wow.
I have to say, I'm in the same boat. Like, I have tried numerous times to make it through Breath of the Wild, and I haven't made it all the way through. I've made progress, but every time it's like you play the game for like 4 hours, then I'm like, I'm good. I'll come back to this in 3 months.
And with Breath of the Wild,
I don't love it.
It's not about really beating the boss. I never beat Ganondorf, Calamity Ganon. But
Ganon.
I played for probably probably like 70 hours still, and I still consider that a big chunk of the game.
Yeah. So I mean, like, all right. So I'm ultra biased in my Zelda love.
Yes, I can hear that.
Well, okay. So my favorite Zelda game is Majora's Mask, and that like there's so many like outside of Zelda conventions that game has. Like, there's no Ganon in it, and it's just like, there's like time constraints and things like that, and it's just like I love, and it's like it's an emotional story that revolves around like the side characters more than it does Link's journey, and it's how he affects the world around him versus like things happening to him.
Breath of the Wild is a lot more exploratory, that's for sure.
So yeah, so it's just like I don't like the Zelda games where it's just like, oh, okay, like Link is just like going on a little tour and blah blah blah, and it's just like, that's my big problem with the Zelda games that everybody else loves, like Link to the Past. Just like, oh, okay, let's just go on a little tour of Hyrule and like unlock things in a sequence. So I mean, like with Majora's Mask, you do things out of order, and it was just very good.
Okay.
It's good. Anyway,
we should have you on again to talk about Majora's Mask too, because
you're booking all sorts of shows.
I mean, everyone said it's my experience that a lot of people say that Majora's Mask is their favorite Zelda game, but I haven't been able to find anyone who wants to come on and go to bat for that game yet. So,
see, people love Ocarina of Time, and people are like, "Oh, Majora's Mask," and it's just like they hate it. They hate it, and I'm like, why?
Okay. So,
why?
Okay.
Like, Ocarina, by comparison, is trash compared to Majora's Mask. It's
it's
trash.
It's because I think people played it at the time and they found it really pretentious. Like by the standards of N64 adventure.
Angry Video Game Nerd actually just did a show on Majora's Mask, and he put it really well. So obviously, to go back, he actually never played it before, and so he had heard the hype just like we've heard, and he finally played it and hated it.
Well, that's his own fault for having bad taste.
Because of the controls. And then he broke it. And then he broke it down. He really did a good job. He did his angry video game nerd thing where he probably threw up on it or something ridiculous. But then he went back and said, I understand why people love this game. It's so bizarre and interesting, and it plays with these mechanics. It's like a fever dream, but with a game placed on it.
Like a fever dream.
It is. It's crazy. There's a giant, insane moon that's gonna murder everyone, and everyone's just like accepting their dooms, and then you have to go do these puzzles. Anyway, that's
literally just par for Zelda games.
Exactly,
okay, like the main villain is just like
but this
large
one is
man,
a little bit more of a fever dream.
I don't
right?
know.
Would you say than Ocarina of Time?
I don't know. Just again, like the major villain in the Zelda universe is a large pig man. So I mean, like, okay, an angry moon isn't that far fetched.
No, it's not. But it's way creepier and it's way more in your face.
I mean, it is true to like look up and be like, oh, hey, and it's just like.
Because over the course of the game, you get used to it, and it just like any video game. But like really looking back at it, it is bizarre. If you look at it in like the totality of games, I guess it's like this really weird little like artifact there, and then they made it in this super cramped time schedule, but that made it that much more bizarre and experimentational. It's
well, I mean part of it is
that's what I appreciate
you that you're
about
die.
It's like
it's a mechanic.
Like
that's crazy.
The inevitable end of life and the short time that we have in existence, like that's like part of it.
Yeah, and some people don't want to face that. I mean, video games are escapism, so maybe it's a clear line. Maybe it's people who want adventure, so they want Ocarina of Time. They want to be the hero, or they want to look at the weird side of life and.
Well, the other thing.
Mask.
I mean, okay, we're going to talk about this right now.
Yeah, we are.
I'm fine with that.
No, I mean, the other thing is, it's like you can still be like I was mentioning earlier. You can still be that hero, like even in that short amount of time, and you can enact change in other people's lives as well as your own life. Like you can take control and like look at people and understand and like and help them.
It's about making that time matter.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the important thing about the message of Majora's Mask, and it's just like and even the most like what is it, the most ostracized people, the ones who are stricken from society, like they still need a certain love and care in order to feel like they matter. And that's ultimately what it is when with Skull Kid. It's just like, oh, he lives alone, he doesn't have any friends and whatever, and that's why like the mask overwhelms him so completely. So whenever like the evil is defeated and like it's just like, okay, like somebody cared about me enough to make sure that this evil was conquered within me. And it's just like that wasn't Link's thing, but he like still did it. Like he still went out of his way. It's just like, okay, well, I have to help all of these people, and this is like the last person I need to help until this like adventure is over. I mean, it's open to interpretation anyway, but that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
I'll go to bat any day from Majora's Mask.
Yeah, and I'm not, my stance is I would probably suffer playing through it now, but intellectually I respect the hell out of that game.
Yeah.
But I mean,
that's personally what matters to me, because like even if you look at like Ocarina of Time, like that game is designed like trash. All they did was take a 2D Zelda and make it 3D, and like a lot of the things just don't work in a 3D world. Okay, so like the spike things that like spin around in a room in a circle, it's just like, okay, in a 2D Zelda you can see where those things are coming from, and you have like a vision there. But in 3D it's just like, okay, they'll like sneak behind you, and it's just like it's poor game design, because they're taking a 2D vision of a game and realizing it in 3D. A lot of other things, like when you're in a volcano level, like some things just don't have danger and they're implemented for no reason. Like you can run forward and you can jump over some lava, and it's just like there wasn't any real danger there. And it's like, why did they do that? Like, there's no point to doing any of that. Like,
because it's exciting.
It's not
you're
exciting.
Jumping over lava. That's part of what makes it exciting.
No, but there's no danger in it because you realize there's no chance of failure. Like, you don't have to do anything except press forward.
It's because it's more about the spectacle, especially at the time. Like, that was spectacle. Like, that.
Okay,
that's like the equivalent of like a Naughty Dog action scene where Nathan Drake is like running away from Nazis in a van with
I'm
machine
just saying
guns.
we're looking at it through modern eyes, not the spectacle that it was before.
Right, but like to say like you're saying like it's bad design, and it's not necessarily bad design for the time and for the purpose that they were trying to achieve. It was good design. It's just good design that has aged poorly now that we know how to do things better and we're more used to certain things.
Listen, I just don't like it, and it could have done without. It could have done without. They could have just not done it. It would have been just as easy to have like other danger in that immediacy, not fake jumping over lava.
But look, you fake jump over lava and go into a room with a giant fire dragon that's flying around. It's fine.
I'm just saying, like it could have been like lava everywhere, or something like that, or like another thing you could have had like a river of lava that you had to have, like that you could have had to figure out how to cross without shooting an arrow into an eye, like a different way,
the arrow in the eye. Okay, that's like the core of the whole game.
I'm just saying, like, you could have figured out something different.
No.
And then got into the giant
My
fire
question
dragon.
is, were those eyes like monsters? Are they like thinking beings, or are they just like weird eye holes that control doors? Is that like a common thing?
Which do you want to be the truth?
I mean, it makes more sense if it's like a monster and you're inflicting pain and agony to proceed.
Just to put a final pin in this, shooting an eye with an arrow is not a puzzle. It's not a puzzle. It's not a puzzle.
It's a puzzle for someone like me, okay?
I mean, maybe at the time it was a puzzle. It was like 1991.
It has never been a puzzle. It has never been a puzzle.
You had to find the eye, or sometimes it was in a weird spot. Okay.
Spatial reasoning is not a puzzle.
Hey, look, sometimes
Looking
you're
at
the
something is
person
not
who
a puzzle.
shoots an eye, and other times you're the eye that gets shot. It's a metaphor.
I am constantly the eye that gets shot.
So I hear there's this game called Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah.
It doesn't have eyeballs that you shoot.
Actually, it does, but in a different way.
But they don't open doors.
Yes.
Unless you are counting doors to the soul.
No, we're not. I don't think. At least not on this podcast. So, Horizon Zero Dawn, an almost direct competitor to Zelda, and honestly, like, I want to say, like, Guerrilla's huge hit. Like, yeah, like, they made Killzone, and, like, Killzone was supposed to be the Halo killer, and it wasn't.
They made Killzone, and I don't know what else they've made aside from that. Did they do Knack? No, they made
that
Killzone
was a different
Shadowfall.
company. Yeah, no, it was literally just Killzone Games and then Horizon Zero Dawn. And it's just like, oh, okay, like, what was it? What was the PS3 game? Is Killzone Shadowfall? Yeah.
Shadowfall was a launch game for the PS4.
Yeah. Okay. So Killzone Shadowfall was that first experimentation with the engine that Horizon would later go on to use.
I want to say Decima.
Yep. I almost said Duodecima, and I'm like, that's a Final Fantasy thing.
Yeah, I did play Killzone Shadowfall. It's the first Killzone game that I ever played. Mm-hmm. I was not very impressed.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say it's impressive. It's a competent shooter, and it looks nice.
It was
like,
fine.
And like the engine like owns, because you can do so much with it. But I mean, it's just like okay, like I don't know, how many shooters am I going to play in my life? Plenty. I've played enough shooters to last me the rest of my life. And I'll probably end up playing like 50 more. Doom comes out in 2 weeks.
Oh no.
I know.
About that one. No.
Yeah.
we got Pokemon Mystery Dungeon coming out tomorrow, and then Animal Crossing in like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Jeez.
In 2 weeks, Doom Middle Cross Turnal.
That's a great combo of games altogether.
Yeah.
I know. Very excited. But yeah, so it's just like it's interesting, like, if you know anything about like the development space, to see a company that was like so focused on creating shooters to make like an open world story driven game, and a science fiction game no less. And like my friend Eden said this about Horizon Zero Dawn after I had encouraged him to play it, and he was like, Horizon Zero Dawn is one of the finest pieces of science fiction I've ever experienced, and I'm very inclined to agree, just because it is like it's based in it's based in our reality, but it takes such like a futuristic approach, and it's just like how we cause our own downfall, and how we consider saving ourselves, and it's just like it's like a personal journey for the main character Aloy. There's like a set of robot dinosaurs. Like, they're not all robot dinosaurs. Like, you got like velociraptors, and then you got a T-Rex, proxies, but aside from that, like, I guess you have saber-tooth tiger too, but that's not really a dinosaur, is it?
Got a giant mythological bird monster. You got your weird antelope robots.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just like saying that it's just robot dinosaurs is
underselling.
You're underselling the mechanical aspect of it.
Gotcha.
Robot monsters, creatures.
I would say creatures.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, and it like, it was like really combining. It was like scratching the right itch for me back in the day. Like, as 3 years ago was that long ago.
It's
that was
an eternity
ago.
It, like,
are you
Kyle, in like 2019 years, it's
I know.
It's like
That was
5 to
forever
10
ago.
years ago.
I know.
Oh,
We're all so tired.
That hurt, Kyle.
Hey Scouter, how you doing?
Hello, chat.
Yeah. Hello, chat. But yeah, so like it was like combining some of my favorite things. I'm like, okay, cool, like open world story driven thing, and it's just like, okay, big monsters I get to fight, and I get to like learn patterns and stuff. It's like Monster Hunter, and I'm like, yes, it's
so
good
much
shit
better
right
than
there.
Entire Hunter, though. Like the
Arguably.
entire process is streamlined.
It's arguably
fluid.
better than Monster
That
Hunter.
is a huge comparison there.
Yeah, and so I'm just saying, like, it scratches
Okay.
that specific itch, because Monster Hunter is something very, very different.
The actual process of like
Okay.
playing Horizon Zero Dawn is a lot less Monster Hunter-y and a lot more like action-y, fluid, in the moment kind of gameplay.
Yeah, so I'm like since Horizon Zero Dawn is like story driven, like there's not a lot of, I guess, repetition as far as combat is concerned. I mean, you'll still fight the same enemy creatures and things of that nature, but
you're not going to be spamming creatures.
Yeah, but you're
not.
but you're not gonna be fighting like 80 snapjaws in order to build like a new set of armor. Not that you don't do that, because you still collect things, and you still need to trade for armor sets within the game, but it's not the same. The ethos is different.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big complaints that I have about this game is just that sometimes it does take you a long time to collect stuff that you need.
Yeah.
Especially if you're fast traveling instead of just like going places naturally, which kind of begs the question, like, why even have fast travel at all if it actually inconveniences you?
for the convenience.
But it
for the challenge.
But it inconveniences you.
Maybe it inconveniences you. I don't know. I never found it to be a problem. But I mean, like, also, I did everything in that game. I did everything. I still haven't played the DLC, which is gonna lead me to play the entire game again.
Exactly. That's why I haven't touched it either.
Yeah. Sure, Naomi. Sure, Naomi.
Oh, you just got called out.
It's what Naomi deserves.
Fine, whatever.
So, like, we've kind of talked about the gameplay a little bit, and like harvesting and like crafting and all of that. But I think kind of like one of the big draws of this game is its story and how well that all comes together.
Like, I think the, like, surprisingly the best part of Horizon is how well it's paced. Like, the pacing of it and how things slowly get revealed, it's an incredibly well thought storytelling experience. And like, I haven't played it since launch, so it's been 3 years, and like, life has happened, so so it's like, my thoughts on it aren't wholly collected, but I do know like the things that I felt, and like my constant surprise at how things were revealed, because you think it's just about like this young girl's world falling apart, and it is, but just how much like everything is centered around her. And I guess we're just gonna get into spoiler territory right now. Yeah,
we're diving in.
Yeah, we're diving in.
I won't be mad, Kyle.
You're okay with that?
I'm fine.
All right. And to learn that she's like a genetic reproduction of like this scientist that concocted this plan to save humanity as a species, and how like all the creatures you encounter are like basically carriers. All the robotic creatures you encounter are basically carriers for genetic code for all the species within like the world. She she and a team of scientists like figured it out, and it's just like and like her genetic code is like supposed to be a key in order to like unlock the very center of this, and it's just like all that gets revealed slowly, and the way she finds out, and she's like gasp, like increasing intensity gasps. It's just like, it's so good. Like, everything about it is so good.
Yeah, Ashley Birch does such a good job as Aloy.
Mm-hmm.
It's, yeah. I have followed her work since she did those YouTube videos.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy just kind of seeing her succeed. I love it. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
And to kind of like clarify things a little bit, like the state of the world in Horizon Zero Dawn is that basically modern humans screw up everything. The world is in shambles. There's like a giant war against AI that is going poorly, and so basically the new human plan is to go into bunkers, let everyone die, and then like they'll put out some like robots to kind of like automate a healing process for the world, and then like in 10 million years they'll like start slowly waking up, and everything will be fine, and you'll have like access to these giant centers where everything they need to know to survive is taught to them, and basically they'll just pick up where they left off, you know, just 10 million years later.
Yeah, it's like Horizon takes place in extremely post-apocalypse Colorado.
Yeah. It's and like it's great because most of like almost everything from the old world is gone or non-functional or like just kind of like a weird landmark rather than a noteworthy location to get to. And it's interesting from that angle, but also just kind of the way that learning that as you go, like later in the game, just kind of recontextualizes this entire ecosystem that you've been actively fighting and like trying to understand and like basically kind of almost like trying to destroy in a way. Like a lot of these robots, like you're gonna mess them up.
Yeah, it's so funny to see the evolution of like character and player understanding for like, I guess, the entities and the mechanics of the world, because like the game starts off so personal, like Aloy's going through her rite of passage, and then like things go off kilter, and her adopted dad like gets killed, and it's just like, okay, like that's the beginning of the game, and it's just like, all right, it's supremely personal. And then like, yeah, it's like stays supremely personal because again, she like find out she's genetic clone and things like that, and like she's the key to everything. But it's just like, okay, like she matters more in this grand scheme of things, like more than she originally thought. And it's wild to see just her role, and how everything just like centers around her.
Yeah, it's a unique way to build a protagonist. I mean, the same formula is there, you know, this seemingly average person just living their life, and then all of a sudden they have this grand thing that happens to them, but they kind of turned, you know, some different corners for it where, you know, it's not like this grand adventure she's going on. Her world is crumbling around her, and it's being revealed to her, and it feels like more I don't want to say real, because that just sounds kind of cheapens it, you know. It feels more, I don't know, more intentional. I mean, it's definitely in sci-fi a lot, you know, that feeling of dread.
Yeah, and like the big bad in the game is Hades. Like, there are these the systems that we mentioned earlier that were in place. Is like, they're all named after the Greek gods, and Hades is there as basically a reset button, as it were. So basically, each of the Greek gods were assigned to reinstate something to humanity, and I don't remember the roles exactly, as far as the names and assignments were, but one of the systems was there to reteach humanity everything that they need to know. One of them was there to make sure that you know, the mechanical machines like managed to redistribute all the plant and animal life. One of them was there to make sure that the humans were okay. And then like if everything went wrong, like after a certain period, Hades was supposed there to be like, nope, we're shutting everything down, and just that was going to be the reset, and then everything was going to start over again at a later time. And like in the past, like one of the scientists ends up sabotaging the mechanism that's supposed to reteach humanity everything. So that's like, yeah, so that's why like Horizon, like everything is so, I guess, primitive,
because people woke up and there was nothing to teach them how to
they did get taught in a way. Like some of those systems were still in place, but because fragmented. Yeah, because they all like left, like they forgot all that. It's why everyone speaks English in this area. But at the same time, it's just like okay, like they didn't have the knowledge of the past, as it were. Mm-hmm. So like you like as you play, you find out that like Hades is just attempting to do its programming, and people are like like this one sect is worshiping Hades as a god and wants to see it come to fruition, and then you learn it's just like, oh shit, like everything we know is going to fall apart if like Hades executes its protocol, and like it's your job in order like to unlock all of the secrets of the past and like you know, stop Hades from doing what it's supposed to do.
Because that's basically why Aloy was created in the first place.
Yeah.
Like this game takes place not just like a crazy amount of time in the future, but also like a crazy amount of time after people have already woken up. So like a lot of the game and its story and narrative are actually built around like the internal politics of these different societies and kind of like how they work and how they value different things. And so it's the point, the whole, what makes Aloy special is basically the AI that is supposed to protect humanity was like monitoring things, figured out that Hades was going kind of off script, as it were, and because the only person who could fix that problem was the lead scientist behind this, it basically created a clone of that scientist and put it out into the world. And luckily there were people who worshiped that facility as a goddess, and they raised the child. And that's Aloy.
But the other thing is, it's like you see Aloy being ostracized because she was basically born of a machine. Like she doesn't have any parentage, and then like she gets adopted by an outsider herself. So like it's an interesting like coming of age story, and how like, okay, like she's an outsider, and then she becomes an orphan, so she has nobody, so she has no place in the world, and she like, you see her like slowly earning her place by, you know, doing good deeds and like being strong and like kicking ass. It's like, I don't know, it's good.
So you mentioned like this game made you cry. Like at what point did that happen for you?
Like the very, very end. Like just like the part where she, I guess, visits her former self, where she visits Lisbeth, who is her I guess, what's the word? Her, I
mean, the closest thing she has to a mom.
Yeah. Her mom. Her genetic forebearer.
There you go. Perfect.
And it's just like I mean, this game is emotional the whole way through. But it's just like what's like right at the very end, there's this quote. I'm gonna look it up.
Fast and efficient, typey.
Gotta know that as a community manager.
Yeah. And oh no, how do words work?
Very carefully.
Most of the time they don't.
So Gaia is the system in place that was there to resurrect humanity, whereas Hades was her counterpart, and Gaia is like the mother here. And Aloy is listening to a recording of Elizabeth Sobek, which is the lead doctor and her genetic forebearer. And there's an instance where what was the situation? Like she burns a tree in a backyard, and so Elizabeth as a child burns a tree in a backyard, and she ends up killing some baby birds in the tree. and her mother comes out and, like, you know, she says she shows Elizabeth she shows Elizabeth that she's like, okay, like, you know, like the preciousness of life. And Elizabeth says to Gaia, she's like, I remember yelling that I didn't care, and that's when my mother took my face in her hands and spoke. And Gaia asks, what did she say? And Elizabeth responds with what her mother said. She said I had to care. She said, Elizabeth, being smart will count for nothing if you don't make the world a better place. You have to use your smarts to count for something, to serve life, not death. And I'm just like, that just hits me in such a place. And I'm like, what do I do with this? And I don't know. It's just like, it really spoke to my, like, personal philosophy of existence. So I'm just like, I'm like watching the scene and I'm like feeling tears like rolling down my face, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Somebody else.
A little bit of validation. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just like this culmination of like events where it's just like this whole entire story unfolds, and it's just like this really personal instance for somebody who isn't even, I guess, technically a major character within the storytelling of the game, and like they don't even exist in this modern world. And it's just like this is Jack only coming through the...
I don't know. Can you guys only hear me on the left channel?
No, I can hear you left and right.
I can hear you. Yeah. Well, I guess I have one earbud in.
It might be the audio settings. I'll take a look.
No, it's fine. Oh,
okay. Oh, it's okay. It's okay.
No reason to hide. Come out. I have a snack for you.
Yeah, you have
It's
an
okay.
extra. You have an extra. You're double fisting that coffee still.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay to come out. It's safe.
Aww. We love you.
Oh. Da 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 da.
Yeah. Gosh.
That's balance.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's a game that is full of these beautiful moments, and a lot more perhaps like introspective, kind of like philosophical musings than people, I think, were expecting going into a game that was marketed as being very heavy on robot creature fighting.
Adventure. Yeah. What you're describing is an existential crisis, you know? And not only that, but exploring systems that, like, contribute to this existential crisis without even, like, using Aloy, really. Like, it's this world that you contemplate, and she just happens to be in it and navigating it along with you, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, it's... bringing, like, kind of comparing it to an existential crisis is really apt, I think, because it is quite literally a giant existential crisis for the planet, right?
Yeah. Because if Aloy doesn't do anything, everyone's fucked.
Yeah. There's no
everyone. Because, like, yeah, because she's, like, the key to everything. Like, she's the key to everything, and she's the only one who's, like, determined to understand. And it's like obviously it's like through the player's actions, and you know you're on a path for the story. Like, there's a linearity to it, but
you bring what you have to the game.
Yeah,
you know, like you said, it spoke to your philosophy. It probably spoke to a lot of people, and just looking at how humanity works and looking at that big metaphor they created.
Yeah,
or allegory
and it's allegory? And metaphor, whatever. Yeah, it's a thing.
One of them.
No, but it's also interesting in the idea where it's just like it has a bunch of side quests where you can recruit, I guess, special individuals of the world. And it's like experts in like weaponry and like you know, gather like chieftains of the world in a way. And you can recruit them by doing side quests, and then everything culminates in this like huge set piece right before the end of the game. And like you can not do that, and you can get like the same end game experience, but like kind of doing it's just like you see Aloy be this leader, and it's just like, oh, okay, like she was so important and determined that she managed to bring everyone together. And it's just like, I don't know, like
it's a story about like resiliency and like surviving in the face of odds and working together and
humanity's redemption.
I mean,
question mark. I mean, trying.
That's kind of it. Like, you gotta try. You have to care.
It's like I love the fact that it drives the point home that you as an individual have to care. And I think in a way it kind of betrays its own idea, and it's just like you don't have to be the most special person to do something great, even though Aloy is like technically the most special person in this situation, just because. But I mean, like even if she didn't have like Elizabeth Sobek's genetic code within her, just like even outside of that, the things that she does are still important because she took initiative to do those things and like care and bring people together and like set aside those differences in order to overcome a greater despair.
Yeah. And there's also, I'm forgetting, but there's also an NPC that kind of makes appearances throughout the game, who's kind of mysterious, helping Aloy for kind of his own ends. I think he might be voiced by Lance Reddick.
Yeah, that is 100% Lance Reddick.
And I forget what his end game reasons for helping her were. That were going to be explained in the sequel or in the DLC, which neither of us have played.
Yeah, like I have it sitting on my PS4 and I just haven't done it for like the last year and a half. I swear to God, I'm going to do it.
Sure,
swear to that game, Kyle.
You know what?
Swear to that game right now.
I'm gonna get my taxes done. I'm gonna get my taxes done this weekend, and then I'm gonna do that.
Yes,
I'm
perfect.
gonna do it.
Reward.
Nice.
I'm gonna pull myself away from Final Fantasy 14 just enough.
So I did want to bring up one of the big headline criticisms of Horizon Zero Dawn that came like pretty quickly after it released.
Was it the accidental racism?
Yeah, well, not necessarily the accidental racism, more just so a woman named Dia Lacina posted on Medium and basically called the game out for its use of language, kind of diminishing language to emphasize the these cultures that very heavily drew from like Native American tribes and societies and really indigenous people from all over the world, and basically just kind of talking about like when you talk about life reverting to tribal ways, you're kind of putting forward this idea that tribes are somehow inherently less valuable than like a modern society or something like that, which is problematic because tribes of people do exist in modern society right now. and there's like a whole history of baggage with a lot of these words. And one of the quotes I wrote down was, please remember that indigenous people exist, that when you write about tribal/indigenous societies, you're writing about us, even in fictional contexts. And there's a long, dark history of the vocabulary you might be inclined to draw upon when writing.
Yeah.
And I just kind of wanted to ask you guys, like, what your thoughts were about this. I think for me personally, I think a lot of it comes down to they really needed some sensitivity readers.
I can agree with that. I think a sensitivity reading would have been very important. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't recall how many writers worked on Horizon Zero Dawn. It was
so
definitely
you two
more than a
agree that it
handful.
was, a blemish on the game then? Like, it was noticeable enough where it was like, oh yeah, okay. Or is it kind of a more... I mean, not to diminish it at all, but is it something that's blatant in the game, or is it more of a subtle...
It's not subtle, but also it's not...
It's not like in your face.
Well, it's not in your face, but at the same time, as somebody...
That's what makes it insidious.
Here's the context. Like, I didn't understand that there was a problem until after I had played the game and then like later read this, and I'm just like, oh, I understand how this might be damaging to
Native
people
peoples.
that aren't to people that aren't me. I guess to native or indigenous people. Not again, but I mean, for all intents and purposes, I grew up white. As a brown person, I grew up white, and it's just like, I didn't understand. I mean, I definitely like sympathize and understand, and I'm sensitive to it now, but I didn't
see it right.
Yeah, I didn't see this because it's just like, oh, like this is like normalized and it's like the far future and like things like that, and like they're like I understand that there is a sense of tribalism that exists within people, and people split off into groups depending on their values, and like I get that. It's just, people love we have an inherent desire to categorize things. Like as a species, there's like we love to categorize things. It's like, why everybody loves to be in the Harry Potter houses and things like that. But at the same time, it's just like we like there could have been different language used in order to categorize these things, these groups of people within the game, without having to resort to language that has otherwise been damaging throughout history.
Okay, so it sounds like, I guess we can assume that it was probably through ignorance, but that's of course not any excuse. And then the person who wrote this article opened a lot of people's eyes, at least people who had their eyes open and were ready to see this. So yeah, that's always a good thing. I like moments where I'm like, oh, okay, I can understand this experience, or not understand this experience, but understand where someone might be coming from through what they express through a Medium article. I think that's exactly where we should be. We should be able to have those conversations, I guess.
Yeah, and it's I think at the time a lot of people brushed it off as like, oh, SJW BS or whatever.
Oh
but
gosh,
like,
I forgot about SJW.
But like, if you take a look at it, this game was made by Guerrilla Games. They're a Dutch company. Like, I can 100% understand where they're coming from, where there was a whole interview with the lead narrative designer on the game, and like their entire team did a bunch of research about what the best words to use would be, and the results are in the final game that we know now. But the problem is that a lot of them are their background is from, you know, the Netherlands, so they're not necessarily in tune with what might be taken the wrong way by
it's a perfect example of, you know, we can read about people's experiences and we can sympathize and we can empathize, but, you know, there's stories that people of color and marginalized people can only tell. You know, a white person telling a marginalized person's story is not gonna have the same impact as that person. In this game, you know, in this instance, just demonstrates that.
Yeah, and I think it's important to say that I don't think that the narrative of this game came from a place of malice. Like, this wasn't intended in a malicious way.
Yeah, and not to interrupt, but it's not intended to be really a story about the native or indigenous experience. It just happened to kind of go alongside of that, and I think that's probably where they ran into the issue. You know, it's not, you know, Aloy is a white girl, you know, and she's living in these, you know, I don't know what words they use, but, you know, primitive cultures, whatever, you know, and, you know, she's obviously not going to have the same experience, and the world is not the same and everything like that. Gosh, I forgot where I was going there.
I mean,
but anyway,
part of the problem is kind of exactly what you touched on, is like, it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with Native American culture, but the game uses that as kind of its aesthetic.
Yeah, and because they use that, they needed to have an extra step there that they probably missed because they were focused on their narrative more.
Yeah, like, if I guess, like, if they had used a different categorization technique, like, it still very well could have had the same impact without having been, I guess, using Native American aesthetic.
Yeah, having that problematic, you know, not borrowing from the culture, but maybe creating something completely new. In this new world, which of course we can understand why that would be an issue. That's a lot more work.
Or again, like, getting sensitivity readers would allow them to, you know, still have this great story that they wanted to tell and still allow them to tell it, but avoiding using kind of words that might diminish. Yeah, like the 4 words that Lacina calls out in particular are tribal, primitive, braves, and savage. And, like, yeah, I mean, you can understand, especially because games aren't without context, like, you know, those words bring all kinds of baggage with them.
Absolutely.
And that's actually something that I was thinking about while prepping for this podcast, is just like, one of the big problems I think that exists in modern games is that, especially in this given moment, is just kind of the over-reliance on film when it comes to storytelling in video games, because AAA games in particular tend to pull a lot from film, which can be really good, and it can also be really bad, because you can pull a lot of stuff that isn't great from film as well. And like, one of those in this case is the Hollywood Indian type of stock character, and kind of the tendency to, and I think that's exactly where this game kind of runs into some problems, because the whole point of having a Hollywood Indian as a concept is that non-native people working in an industry are using that native look or sound or aesthetic to achieve their own purposes, without input going the other way. And so I just think that, like, that was the big stumbling block here. And
yeah, they relied on an archetype, and that archetype has a lot of baggage with it.
Yeah, it's rooted in like racism and like slaughter of indigenous people, and it's just like,
and then of course, you know, there's a different climate in was gonna say Dutchland.
The Netherlands.
Well, I mean, no, like Deutschland is not incorrect.
I know. Anyway.
That's technically Germany.
Is it?
Yeah, Deutschland.
Okay,
yep.
so it is incorrect.
Yeah,
What do I
very
know about
incorrect.
Europe? I've been like once.
Anyway, brain's coming back on. There's a different attitude towards race in in the Netherlands than there is in the US.
Yeah.
And that's just going to be a fact for most countries compared to the US. So it's hard for I guess devs in different countries to anticipate that thing.
Mm-hmm.
That dynamic.
Well,
but not impossible.
No, we unfortunately do see a lot of that. It's like we get a lot of I guess people who use certain aesthetics to just like, oh, okay, like this is a good storytelling device or vehicle without really understanding the implications of it. It reminds me of Cuphead. Actually, so like the art style of Cuphead, its predecessor is rooted in racism, because that art style aesthetic was used to demean black people, as like through slavery and through segregation and things like that, and
it's a very clear line too. It's not like, it's not a stretch, it's a very clear line that art style is directly like rooted in this racism. It is
100% rooted in racism, and like the Cuphead devs were just like, we just like the art style. Like there was none, like obviously their intention wasn't to be malicious or anything. They're just like, we just wanted to make a fun game and have it be hard as hell, and like we just wanted it to look like this. But obviously there wasn't research done beyond. It's just like, okay, this is the visual aesthetic and that's it.
Well, that's a part of what white privilege is right? Is not having to think about these nasty
the
things that have been exactly, not having to feel them, not having to have the pain dredged up when these stories come back, and that's a part of white privilege that we're trying to dismantle by having these articles out and being like, yeah, it is important for us to look at how these games affect everyone, because they are for everyone, and that they should be, and games are a wider medium that are storytelling devices, and everyone should be represented in them, just like film, TV.
Yeah, and I also think that it's important to point out that like certain groups aren't monoliths. So when it comes to, like, for example, Cuphead, you can say, oh, this is a horrifically racist thing because it has this art style that's rooted in kind of these racist origins. But at the same time, that might not be a problem to a lot of people who play it who are Black and African American. I actually had on a previous episode of this show, Marcus came on and he nominated our good friend Marcus Stewart. He nominated Cuphead, and we talked about it, and it just was not an issue for him.
Yeah, and like of course, like I'm not gonna say that we're past racism. Like obviously, like that's not gonna happen in our lifetime. It's not gonna happen in our lifetime. But I mean, like, yeah, like some things aren't issues for some people, and I get that. I do.
Yeah, I mean, first, I think for a lot of people, Cuphead's art style, while it is rooted in that, does not have a modern history that a lot of people associate with it.
Definitely not a modern history, but
more
like,
palatable to a lot of audiences.
But a recent history, and I don't think that's. I don't think we can ignore that, because I mean, like literally within the last 100 years.
Right.
That's a very important point. Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, especially comparing it to what we're talking about with Horizon Zero Dawn, to kind of loop it back in.
Yeah.
When you're talking about like native peoples, like Braves is still like a name of a baseball team, and like it wasn't even, I think 10 years ago they tried to bring back their old logo for the team, which was a caricatured Indian. Caricatured Native American, and
super good
idea.
Like
we still have the Washington Redskins, and like
we unfortunately sure do.
And there's like all kinds of implications when you're talking about savages or
the Confederate flag,
tribes, and it's just like when we're having a conversation out here and we're talking about, oh yeah, it makes sense that like tribe would have certain connotations in our context as like people who live in the United States. And it makes sense that like all of this makes sense, but it's also much more recent than and pertinent to like our modern pop culture than an animation style that hasn't been used since like the 30s or 40s. I guess that's my main point. It doesn't mean it's not a problem. It just means that there is a certain amount of distance there that isn't it's not the same as I guess they're both still apples. It's just that one apple you have in your hand and the other apple is like, a block away. It's not that far away, but
I don't know.
Some people are like, I don't know. My analogy is terrible.
Well, here in this situation, it's like it's not our call to make on what affects somebody. Like obviously, like if it affects you, it affects you, and like you should be able to talk about what it is that you either support or don't support. And I think it's important to just be heard and just I guess constructive criticism is kind of the way to go. It's just like, oh, okay, like yeah, these things are recent history and maybe like less recent history, like the damage to the indigenous people is within the last 250 years, like their subjugation and their destruction, as it were. That was the birth of the United States, and then the enslavement of black people. That was within the last, what year is it now, 2020, like the last 150 years. So I mean, it's like yeah, it feels far away, but it's not that far away for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Like there are a lot of people alive now that lived through segregation, that like that they were alive when they weren't able to vote.
Yeah, it affects generations after that, of course.
Yeah, and it's still it's still present in our culture.
Mm-hmm. I want to be clear that I'm not saying that's the case.
I'm
just saying, like, with Marcus as kind of like that example, that like there are going to be people who are fine with it, and their reasoning is going to be that it is more further
detachment
away.
From
that. And I very much understand that perspective, but it's always going to vary, and it's our responsibility to be sensitive and understanding of those voices.
Yeah, it's like you said, Kyle, it's constructive feedback for developers, and it's not in a vacuum. Other developers are going to see like, oh, this happened to Guerrilla Games.
Yeah,
we're gonna try our best to, this is the most pure and ultimate idea. They're gonna strive to be the best that they can do, and maybe they had never thought of sensitivity readers before, and now they have.
Yeah,
these conversations are so important because of that.
Yeah, and I certainly hope that like more creative companies are like having more inclusion initiatives. Like I see a lot of that in I was doing some work for Indie Mega Booth this past weekend at PAX, and like it was wait, what weekend is it? How long ago was PAX? Was it this past weekend?
It was this past weekend.
Oh my god. Yes. What is time? Anyway, I really adore Indie Mega Booth's ethos, because we see like games literally from all over the world, and it's just like, hey, here's some money, like come from Brazil, you know, like you know, show your game here. It was it was nice to see, like, definitely like developers from South America and like everywhere, like coming here and like showing off their game. Like, well, otherwise, who's gonna get exposed to that?
Right, exactly.
Anyway, like I guess the whole point is that as we talk about these things, like, you're like, yeah, like I hope that these young developers are taking these things to heart, and not only that, I hope these already established developers are like okay, like, even though we failed here, hopefully what we can do in the future is be more sensitive, understanding, and inclusive of those voices. Like, how can we do better from here? And I only hope that, like, you know, individuals who are creating these experiences are always more open to I guess making things for everyone. Like, obviously things aren't going to be for everyone, but you know, the effort is appreciated. The effort is appreciated,
right? And that's
at least not exclusionary. You know,
that's where Guerrilla Games, when they were kind of confronted about this or asked about this, their narrative designer John Gonzalez, his response was basically like, you know, we tried to steer clear of offensive terms, but it's impossible to plan for every player. No. And like, that's true, and I think that's I mean,
it's making an excuse.
It is making,
it's kind of missing the point.
He didn't own that this was a mistake or anything like that, or that they could do better in the future. And I think that it's important to try for one, but also that while he might be right that you can't plan for every player, and there might be somebody who's going to be offended no matter what. I think there are two ways to look at this, and one is like, A, you have a duty to try, a responsibility to try, and B, just from a pragmatic perspective, you can avoid getting blowback like this by hiring sensitivity readers. And
you can be like, this was our process. We made the effort. If you are against it, it's just like, we welcome your feedback, but like, we tried. Right. Being able to show that you tried, and not only that, but also that you cared enough to put resources towards hiring someone to come on and try specifically for that purpose. I think that matters a lot. That reminds me of what was it? Swery's most recent game, The Missing.
Oh yeah.
I remember that you know Kazuma, right? Yeah. So one of Kazuma's major criticisms was that the main character of The Missing is a trans woman, and I know that part of the process was in the creation was that they spoke with I believe at least one trans individual during the creation of The Missing. But Kazuma's major criticism was that it still capitalizes on trans pain, and it uses that as a game mechanic and a storytelling vehicle through it. So it's just like the effort was there, but was it enough? Especially considering that Swery is not a trans person, and I can't imagine anybody on the development team is. So just kind of having that the conversation and like the sensitivity read, I'm not sure. I mean,
I think at a certain level, like when it comes to Horizon Zero Dawn, for example, like we're talking about kind of the aesthetic elements, certain aspects of the storytelling that I think would have been perfect for a sensitivity reader or a diversity team to kind of like come in and look at and give the okay on, right?
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to The Missing, which is a game at its core about kind of the trans experience and all of that, I think that's where, if Swery wanted to go in that direction, probably the better way to do that would be to bring on a trans woman as a creative, like a co-creative lead or something like that,
or a writer,
or a writer.
Yeah, as a writer for sure.
Yeah, to really tell the story there.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I was just the comparison there is that, you know, it's like Horizon didn't have that the sensitivity read, whereas The Missing, you know, Swery's team made the attempt, but it wasn't like I would say it wasn't enough.
Well, it's like, how can you get the entire trans experience from one person, you know? That's the challenge of having any sort of inclusionary team, right? Is how can you represent everyone? So yeah, that's a struggle for the devs to really tackle. How do you build that team to actually get what you need represented out there?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, whoever's in charge of the studio or in charge of a given project, if they're like, I want to make my game about this given experience, and I don't necessarily have that experience, or no one on my main writing team has that kind of experience, you, especially if you're like a large studio or you have access to the resources and means to do this, you should go out of your way to bring someone on who can talk more authoritatively about that. Like, if you're making that kind of the core of your narrative, a sensitivity reader or, you know, interviewing one person from that background is not going to be good enough to kind of fulfill that.
I agree completely. And I think one of the hard things is, and we touched on this before, it's like sometimes they just don't know. Sometimes they just don't know. And I would hope that like somebody on the team would like speak up and be like, hey, maybe we should do this. But I know there's a lot of like, okay, like we already have a plan and we have a timetable and we have financial constraints, and like you know, I'll say this until the day that I die, like making games is hard. It's hard to make them in a certain amount of time. I know, like, you know, it's very surprising. But it's like, and, you know, people's timetables and you know, financial constraints and societal expectations and release dates and things like that.
It's a lot of pressure.
There's so much pressure. So it's just like, okay, like what kind of financial and time resources can we allocate here? And again, like I hope that Guerrilla does better for the sequel, whenever that is to be.
I mean, it's inevitable that it gets a sequel, right?
I certainly hope so, because like I still love Horizon, like despite its issues. But again, like we don't have a timetable for when that's coming.
Nope.
PlayStation 5, baby.
We still don't have a timetable, like, you know, PlayStation 5 end of the year, like, but when's Horizon 2 coming out? Ryzen
launch title
comes out. Launch
Ryzen.
title. What do you think we've been working on for 3 years? Kyle, do you have any last words you want to say about Horizon Zero Dawn?
I don't know. I think I've said everything I need to say. Horizon Zero Dawn, good.
How many thumbs would you give it?
I don't know, like 6 or 7 thumbs. I'm only allowed 2, so like I'm going over the limit here.
I didn't say you were allowed 2.
Extra thumbs.
Oh, okay.
You can give it as many thumbs as you want. But how are you going to get those thumbs ethically? That's the question.
Thumb acquisition. There's the real question. Well, I'm gonna give it a 420 out of 69 thumbs up.
Nice.
And damn, Naomi, it's so lovely to have you back. I've missed you so much.
Missed you too.
And Kyle, you're pretty cool too. I'm glad you came on tonight.
I am too.
Where can people find you, Kyle?
Online.
And your work?
Nowhere.
Twitter.
Yeah, on Twitter. I'm on Twitter. If you're looking at the stream right now, you see FT period Kyle Gaddo. Type that name into Google and you'll find my bullshit.
and you can find this podcast over on Twitter at Best Games Period. We also have a Patreon where episodes go up a week before they go public. And we also occasionally put out super special exclusive episodes or cut content from episodes. And because this is the first time I've streamed since my computer broke, we're going to try and get back into editing streams just for patrons. So, come by and we can chat more and I can laugh more at Nadrine's jokes. That was your most recent one was very good. I appreciated that. On that note, I think I covered everything. Retweet episodes, follow us, subscribe, throw us $1 on Patreon, all that good stuff.
Send pictures of you dabbing.
Send dab pics.
We'll accept them.
And I think that's everything. Am I forgetting something? I feel like I am.
Do you wanna plug your personal Twitters or?
I mean,
no.
You can follow me at Riverboat Jack. But
I don't know what
this channel is also called Riverboat Jack because I haven't made an official Best Games Period Twitch account. So
we'll get there.
You'll probably find me even if I don't say what my name is. On that note, thank you, lovely co-hosts, for the evening, and thank you, lovely listeners and viewers, because you can actually see us right now.
Aren't we lovely?
I'm so sorry my face looks dumb when I talk.
Your face is beautiful. Don't you dare.
It's only beautiful when I don't move.
Silence you.
Oh my gosh. Not true. Not true.
I gotta take more cute pictures of you, so we'll see.
Oh, you got that one.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good day, by the way.
It was a nice day.
I enjoy thinking about that day. It was really good.
It was treasure of the day.
Oh
yeah, Naomi, it was so good. You weren't there.
I love it though.
We went and got ramen,
then
we got ice cream, then we got green tea stuff, and we were just walking all over, being cute.
Blessed day.
This is how I walk. I'm basically a goblin. And
60s cartoon walks.
And I guess
get myself. Oh no! I better not do a Mickey Mouse voice, otherwise Disney's gonna come for me.
They're gonna take down our podcast.
I'm Mickey Mouse.
If you enjoy our triumvirate dynamic, you can catch us on the Dragon Guard podcast. Rip to my homies. And
are they all dead?
I mean, yes, they are all dead.
Yeah, everyone's fucking dead.
You guys killed everybody.
Yeah, but Marcus and I became gods, right?
Marcus stayed behind like a hero, so you guys could become gods.
Yeah, Kyle, you and
you made gods. A stupid planet of unicorns and dragons killing each other.
Killed them. I wiped him out a couple times.
Jesus.
But yes,
the restart.
We're all on the Dragon Guard sub-podcast of the Best Games Period. Please check that out. And on that note, good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you on the flippity-a-dippity.